Hello and welcome to the Persuasion Lab podcast. I'm your host, Moeed Amin. The goal for this show is to help elevate and improve the skills around persuasion and sales. The journey to high performance is not just about the skills and knowledge you acquire, it's also about the person you become and the person you grow into. So from this show, you'll be seeing not just the conventional, or at least the typical sales sales kind of principles, latest cutting edge techniques and tools and strategies, but you'll also hear from myself and renowned experts around the world around other aspects that are vital towards you being successful as a sales professional or successful as a persuader. So we've had guests on the show that were experts in functional medicine, personal brand, even people that are involved in human behavior and body language as well. One of the things that is really important to sales success is the quality of the product, not just the quality of the product now, but the quality of the product in the future as well. Because as we know, the world changes and the buyer's requirements are constantly changing. So being able to partner with product in an effective way to make sure that the right attributes, the right functionalities are being considered in the product development process is really important, and vice versa as well, right? Product also need to learn from sales around what are the important things. And that's why I'm really excited to have today's guest on the show. He's a experienced product leader who's worked in companies like Fujitsu and JTI, and he's helped spearhead some very interesting products, developmental products, for example, in the field of driving applications and in SaaS recruitment. For the last decade, he's helped companies transform the way they conduct their product development process, and he's mentored directors and C-level executives on how to implement things like ITIL and lean manufacturing, or lean methodology, but he's also worked with a number of product managers or product owners and engineers to help them become better product development professionals and really kind of take their careers to the next level. So please help me welcome someone that, along with all of his other certifications in ITIL and lean methodologies, he also has a qualification in gamification, Mr. Phil Araujo. Philip, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. And I think we don't talk about product enough in quite a lot of actually sales forums. So I'm pleased to have this discussion today, and I think this is going to be incredibly valuable for our viewers and listeners. Why don't we start with one of the big questions when it comes to product and the partnership with sales, which is, maybe we get clarity on this first, because there might be some misconceptions here. But what are product developers ultimately responsible for in a company?
The product developers, the product team is responsible for giving the vision, roadmap, strategy around the product. They're the first representative of a customer inside the company. When I teach product management, whether it's to product managers or to developers, data scientists, or anyone that is really interested about product management, I used to say that the product manager has to build the right things at the right time and the right way. All the difficulty in that. Also, at the end of the day, a product manager has also to manage frustration. This is more a personal definition based on the experience about everyone, because he has to work with a lot of different stakeholders. Talked about the customer, you talked about the salespeople, which is also another aspect. Sometimes in the sales, you can have the account managers sometimes that are also, in the kind of same department. So we have also to work with them. Customer support, obviously, that is also in there, onboarding. All the people that basically touch, the product, that have an interaction with the product manager have to talk to them and interact with them, which sometimes can be quite challenging. At certain aspects, and this is why I talk about managing frustrations.
I think I can guess the answer and guess the words that you're going to use to answer this next question. How would you describe the typical relationship between sales and product?
I said frustrating, so we'll use that again. Sometimes we'll say that it's quite a tensed relationship, not a good one. most of the time. I didn't see necessarily a good relationship, especially in companies where there is no necessarily a product market fit, or it's quite a tough market. This is where it starts to be harder. The harder it is for salesperson to sell the product, the harder the relationship is. Because what happens is that they go to try to sell the product, which is their job and which is totally fair. They hear back from the customers. Generally, they come back and they say, look, I can't sell because we don't have this feature, or I can't sell because we don't have this, or I can't sell because, you know, we lost the sale to a competitor, and because the competitor does that. We receive answers, or we receive solutions, which is generally what a product manager doesn't like. Product managers try to solve problems, and we try to solve problems as much as we can. So when we receive solutions like that, it's something where we feel that we are blindsided a little bit and pushed in a certain direction. We'd go sometimes like against the direction we're trying to go, you know, with a vision of a product. So this relationship can be really hard, but it's not just, you know, I talked about the responsibility of the sales and what they're trying to do, but it's also the responsibility of a product manager. Because at the end of the day, you know, the product manager is the one that is always talking to the customer and try to be empathized as much as possible. And so it's the one that needs to make understand to the salespeople. And I saw that a lot where product manager were not talking with the salespeople, were not having meetings with salespeople, didn't want to talk with salespeople, and didn't even give the tools to the salespeople to sell the right way. And what I mean by that, by the tools to sell the right way, is that we know the pain points, we know the problems we're solving for customers. You know, we talk to them, we know the vision we have for the product. And sometimes for product manager, or even like, you know, designers and all, it's like, it's self-evident. So, you know, the sales should know that. You know, it's almost like this kind of reaction that they have. And so they let the sales go, and then sales come back, sold something, and it's like, yeah, this is not what we agreed on, or this is not what we were intended to do. And so this creates all those tensions between the two departments.
Let's dive into that, because I feel that if we share more around this and give that kind of clarity, that this will help solve at least 80% of some of the problems that are occurring here. Help solve it. I don't mean solve it. We're not going to solve it in a you know, half an hour conversation or 45-minute conversation, but we're definitely going to help direct people in the right way. So you talked about salespeople share the solution, right? Or share the ultimate situation, for example, the end situation or conclusion. Let's use that term. And this is not something that products can really work with. Can you give an example of how salespeople should share the right types of information from their customer interactions or buyer interactions that product people can actually do something valuable with?
I think I got that when I was working in recruitment, and also you know, our salespeople were really expert also about the field, and so they knew a lot about, you know, how it was working, the law, and what the recruitment agencies were looking at. So sometimes, you know, they were going into meetings and they were trying to sell almost like they were still having the sales aspect, but they were a little bit product oriented, product managers oriented. And so the good thing is that we were selling the experience. And when we were selling the experience, you know, they were getting the feedback on what was happening in the experience and what was, you know, working, not working, or what they could do. For example, you know, how they could make their sales scenario better. So when we were having in that, you know, we were understanding more of the problem they were having, or we were understanding, you know, what is the feedback, or what the people were trying to see, what was the question. So having, you know, an understanding about the interaction we were having with the clients, it's a bit better for us, because it's almost like we get this script about what is happening. So it's almost like we did the interview, but we were not there. And so we get almost this script of interaction, and suddenly we're saying, okay, this is where it's not working. This is where the experience of a user journey is not working. And so from there, we can ask more questions to them. We can be like more into an investigation, you know, point of view. I think from both sides, you know, we have to remember that sales and product people are both achievers in terms of the way they are, like both want to win, you know, when you look at the profile that they have. And so this can create, you know, like passionate conversation. And I think this is where it comes from. So I think it's on both sides, right? As I said, it's understanding better what is happening, and on the other side, understanding, also giving to the sales, like understanding better what we are trying to do.
That's interesting you shared that, because I don't know what the perspective is from product experts, but certainly from sales experts, we wouldn't have thought that our product colleagues actually have quite a bit in common with us. We wouldn't have associated, product colleagues with high achievers, for example, and wanting to achieve a goal. But actually, now that you say that, it makes perfect sense, because, people are working to a timeline, right? Especially when it comes to product development, it's very intense timeline sometimes. When you said that they kind of help talk about the journey, can we dig into that a little bit more? I really want to give our viewers and listeners, active kind of tools that they can use to help them have a better conversation with their product colleagues. So where in the journey, or in the buyer interaction journey, should they start considering or capturing information or feedback that they're getting in order to convey that to product? Is it right at the beginning? Is it at certain stages? Is it trigger points? What should that be?
I think it's from the beginning. So when I work, I'm going to give you the answer from the other perspective that I developed through the years, and it's all the experience from being in big companies, also working for Fujitsu and other big companies. And I came up with this sales battle card. And so in the sales battle card that I built myself for the sales people, and it's an understanding when we build the sales battle card at a certain point, is that I always start by giving like kind of the elevator pitch. So for them to know, like, this product does that, this is what we're trying to solve. And then I give them like points of discussion, like point of interaction, in question that they can ask, that I discovered through the customer discovery I was doing when I was trying to find the problem, the pain of a customer, what they were answering to. And so I think the sales are doing the same thing. When they approach people, I think they try to understand, the user exactly the same way from another perspective, because the goal is to sell, but they're trying to understand, okay, where do I fit in? What is the angle I could go into that discussion? Just starting to have that already, it's a lot of information from us, because maybe, the pain we discovered when we built the product changed, maybe it shifted a little bit. And so understanding this question and what people are answering and the type of question you're asking, it's already a lot of information for us. So just these starting points, it's already something. So this is why I say from the beginning of the interaction as much as possible. When they qualify, obviously, or when you find like this angle that you could open the discussion with them.
So that makes sense, actually. So if I'm interpreting this correctly, it's try to avoid conclusions, because conclusions are laid with assumptions. It doesn't give the big picture. It doesn't tell the full story. Actually, what we should be sharing with you are the very things that we as salespeople are trained to seek out, which is, what is the pain? What is the challenge that these buyers are facing? What are the situations that these buyers are finding themselves in? How is their world changing? And actually, if we give that, then that actually gives a complete story, or a better or more complete picture for you to actually work with. It gives you context for you to work with as well. Have I understood that correctly?
Yeah, totally. I think, the journey we're in and what we're trying to do, we're really similar. We're not that far away. Also, salespeople, I think, have a better business acumen. We have maybe a better tech acumen, when we're in the UX acumen, so more of a tech side on the product side, but on the business acumen, I believe that sales have more of that, because they see this opportunity way better sometimes that we can see. And so if we work jointly, and it's exactly the same thing, when you look at it, we talk to customer, our goal is to find an opportunity, is to find this thing from a product side, and sales are doing exactly the same thing as you said. And so having exactly this knowledge shared, this is where we can move forward. And I think where we're going to find each other also, not in a battle, but basically we're doing the same thing together.
And one of the things you said that I believe will surprise a lot of salespeople is the fact that you said product people are continuously talking to buyers and talking to customers. Now, I know a lot of salespeople that would be surprised by that statement, because in their minds, they are the people that talk most to customers, or customer success or account managers are the ones that are speaking to the customers the most. But actually, that's as you say, not true. So talk to us a bit more about the nature of those conversations with those buyers. When does that happen? At what point does that occur? What is the cadence behind that? I think it's important for sellers to understand that a bit more.
So there is one thing, I think there is one thing I want to talk about. We talk about customers for people that use the product, like we don't use users because customers, it's more considered, some people use consumer, some people use, users, but customer is generally what it's used. And for a simple reason is because at the end of the day, when we are operating and we're offering the product, we have a customer that we have to answer their need. Now, the buyer could be different. And this is where, this is also like one aspect that we should know, because generally like the person that is taking the decision is not necessarily the customer that we have. So these people is maybe the people we talk less to. Our goal, is to make, without a product, there is no SaaS company, right? Any company you can talk to. I know I had this discussion also with certain people, and products is not considered sometimes as a profit center, it's considered as a cost center. And sales is considered as a profit center all the time because they're bringing the money. And the product we're building is we're trying to fit a market need. This is what we are trying to do. Sales can use this to sell it to people, but the buyer may not be the customer. So this is something that we may not have. In the case that it's the same person, when we talk to them, and this is what we are trying to do regularly, we talk to them whether by observing what they're doing in the platform, or whether, when they come through other ways, or we go directly for customer interviews or surveys or market research. This is all the different ways that we talk to them. But generally we go through interviews. I know that not all the product people do that. I think a lot of people want to do it. They don't necessarily have the time because there is so much pressure by the company, depending on the size, depending on the situation of the company, but they don't have the time sometimes to do it properly. In those cases, this is where it's even more important that the relationship with salespeople is good, because they are the one, as you said, that are always outside. They're the one that are always talking to the buyers. They're the one that get always, the feeling from the market. The problem is when we enter the emotion world, where we're like frustrated and all that, and coming back a little bit from that, taking a step back and being able to talk about it.
And I thought it was quite interesting what you said there, where you made that distinction between the customers and the buyers, because oftentimes, or some of the times at least, the buyer might be the senior decision maker, but
Exactly.
You're going to have less sort of an interaction with them. Is there value in having that person's perspective?
Yes, I call that ghost users. It's a term that I came up with, is because at the end of the day, they're buying the product for a certain reason, which we don't know sometimes. Okay, so let's imagine that you work for a B2B, you work in a B2B market, and what you're trying to solve is maybe an administrative task with your product. But the person that is going to buy that is certainly the senior person of a department, right? Or the financial person, because they see the value in having that as a cost reduction, maybe a cost reduction benefit. And so what happened is that those people want to have reports at the end of the day. They want to see, okay, did it bring the value that I want, that it needs to bring? Because when it's time to renew, these people are going to ask the question. They're going to be like, yeah, but my people are not using your product, or I don't see the benefit of your product. And so suddenly it makes the sales job even harder, right? If we're not trying to feed them in the product in a certain way, they may not be like super users, like using it every day and seeing the value every day, but they are a certain type of user that we have to take into consideration. And sometimes it's completely forgotten from product perspective. And this can only be brought by the salespeople, I believe, and account managers and customer success, for example, because they know those people is the people you have to deal with.
So that already that's something that salespeople can add value to the relationship there, because they have that interaction. So good. What does I'm really intrigued to learn from you. What does a good sales and product relationship look like?
I think it's when we work together, even in sometimes selling together, it works really well when you look at it, especially at the beginning. When it's a small company, sometimes you go to these deals where it's higher deals, and you have to work together. So you need to have a sales perspective when people are capable to open the door, which is something that we don't know really how to do. The relationship that you have and all that, it's not something that I didn't see that as really good in the product teams getting out of a building, I will say, where salespeople are really good at that. They're really good at opening doors and coming in. If there is like this right things that goes both ways. So the first way is like sales helping product to sell, to use the product. So product helping sales to sell, sorry. And then the other way around is also that we have all the knowledge about the users, how they use the product, what they're missing out and all that, and giving this information to sales for sales sell even more. So that's the other aspect. I think it works in both ways. And this is where you see where it works well. Because when you're capable to say, you know what, like, I know that, for example, all these people in this company are using that. We have the same company on the side, not all the people are using it. Is there a way we can sell this product the same way? Is there a way we can, what is the offering, how we can work on that? How can we share this information that works better for you? So this is how we can really work jointly in that. And finally, the last thing for me is that if sales cares a little bit more about the implementation, the success, what I saw that in bad relationship is that sales, sell and that's it, they cut it there. And then it's the responsibility of product of delivering. And this is bad because we don't know what was sold. Sometimes we come in and we're like, oh yeah, your sales guys told us that. And we're like, okay, what do we do with that? So we handle a relationship that is already, at risk. We handle a hot potato in there. And we're like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to make it happen now? Or how can we say to a client that we can't deliver that because we don't have that in our product, or at least not the way they intending to. So having this process that goes until the delivery, and that they're also helping us in that, it's will be the best relationship that we can have, I think.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in a lot of companies, salespeople aren't necessarily incentivized or even interested in that. But actually, I personally believe that's crazy, because that actually will damage the profitability and longevity of a business, right? If we keep selling deals and contracts that are set up for failure, then word will get out, and believe you me, it will get out, and that will make sales and products job even harder. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I think it really depends on the company and the nature of the leadership and what they incentivize and what they create as a culture. One thing that you stated there that was really valuable, which is the insights that product have about how customers are using the product. And I've been involved in companies where I've been a commercial advisor to those businesses, and they've had, incredible amounts of data points that they hold based upon how users are using their platform. And just from those data points, there's an incredible amount of information that sellers can use as an insight-led conversation rather than just a discovery mode conversation. Can you talk to me a bit more about that, right? Is that something product people genuinely can capture quite quickly and are able to share it in a way that salespeople can use? Or do they need help maybe from salespeople to understand the perspective and therefore make sense of that type of information?
Yeah, it's something that that product can create. I think you see that more into data-driven companies, growth companies, that have this mindset where they have a lot of data that support their decision. And in there, I think there is also a need of training in the culture about data, and also to the salespeople, because we don't necessarily know all those data points. We can capture them. We can capture anything you want. That's not an issue, right? You can do that. You can do that super easily in product. And as I said, at the end of the day, we get this data, and then how we transform this data to give it to the sales, so that sales, it's an insight, and they can use that to build on what we have. It's so much easier also for them. Like it has been said, like finding a new client, it's way much harder than trying to upsell a client that we already have, right? For salespeople, like if there is this relationship, as I said, about data and about saying, like, look, like we know, like for example, sales could tell us, like, we know that those people, we have observed that. Is there something that coming with this question to us, like, how can we upsell this? Or, as I said, we love solving problems, right? So maybe you have a range of product, maybe this product works together the right way. And so the question is like, okay, how can we upsell? And this is the question that product also should answer. We're not working just for the outside, we're also working for the inside. And obviously the better success we can have with our product, the first of all, the happier we will be, because I think it's as I said, we're high achievers also, and we want to make an impact on with what we are working on. But also from a sales perspective, it's having this insight that will give them, let's say, an advantage or a competitive advantage compared to the other ones. So yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting, because everything I'm hearing from what you're describing here, Philip, is actually product should be and can be a really close partner and a really close supporter to sales. Because oftentimes we're thinking, like you use your example, how can we upsell? What insights can I give to this buyer or to this customer that's actually going to make them really think about their business, that's going to help me stand out as if I've got something very valuable to say.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we look externally and try to do all this analysis and research about the buyer and their business and their world and their industry, etc. But actually, a lot of the times we probably have not only that information, but we have even more powerful information, because it's coming from other buyers, their peers, and their experiences with the product and the benefits that they're getting from the product, etc. So a lot of times we just have to look internally and look to our colleagues in product to solve a lot of the questions that we probably ask. And sometimes we're asking those questions and we're thinking about it internally within the sales team, but actually we should be asking product, and maybe they can have a faster answer and a more comprehensive answer for this as well. So yeah. I thought that was really, really interesting what you shared there.
I think, I just want to add something on this. I think like everybody knows the sales funnel, in sales people, they know the sales funnel, but the product funnel is a bit different. When you look at it, the product funnel, and I like to take the what we call the pirate metric that people can look at, because it says R, it's AA and triple R. And so it's acquisition, activation, revenue retention, and referral. When you look at it, the way like most of a SaaS, known SaaS product works, so what I mean, Slack, Dropbox and all that, the product works between the activation and revenue and retention. This is their area, and this is what it's coming right now with product led, and where marketing sometimes sells, marketing and sales work. It's whether on the referral or on the acquisition. So basically entering this funnel, and then afterwards it's product that, since they know the retention, since they know what is happening inside the product, since they understand the behavior of a consumer right now, they can give that to the salespeople, and sales can work on the referral part. So seeing who's other type of customer that we can target, seeing the same customer, growing the account, all of that. So this is the I think this funnel is not necessarily known or explained to the salespeople. Maybe it is, but most of the time, I know that we like to live in our world, and it's almost like two areas that are really different.
Yeah, and I love having these kind of conversations, Philip, because actually, when you try to understand the other person's perspective, actually you find that there's a lot of similarities. You share a lot of things without realizing it. So the activation element, good quality sales teams should be very, very interested in the activation elements, because that's the first touch point as an experience as a customer. And that sets the tone and the emotions for the rest of the relationship. And then the revenue, if customers aren't happy, then they won't pay us. If they don't pay us, we don't get paid in our commission. So we should be there. And retention, right? So more and more sales teams are they're being aligned in terms of retention incentives. It's not just the purview of the account managers. There are more sales teams where the business development people are incentivized to make sure that the deal is a good quality deal that actually renews, and they get a cut off that. So actually, the three out of the, was it 5 that you just stated there, are things that salespeople actually share with product. And I think with that commonality, hopefully there can be a better relationship. So it's really interesting that you shared that. Talk to me about product-led sales. It's a term that we are hearing a
Yeah,
lot more.
yeah, it's a term that came. It's again. I mean, the industry that we're in, especially in SaaS and all that, we're really good with buzzwords and new ways to explain again the same stuff. Product-led in itself, or product-led growth, how it is explained, it's a business strategy where you use the product as the main vehicle to acquire, like the what I was saying, so acquire, activate, and retain customers. So if I take the example of Slack again, people know Slack and people start using Slack, it's free. Then suddenly you start paying for it. And then you're going to go through this funnel and start paying maybe an enterprise account or things like that. And this is how this company are going so quickly and so big. And so where it plays something different is that companies generally have been sales driven or marketing driven. And now people are trying to shift that, at least in the product community, to being like more product driven or more product led. My impression is that it feels like products sometimes have this Superman complex where we can solve everything, and we think we can solve all those things and being like, yeah, we don't need the others. Where in reality, it shouldn't be like you against us or us against you. But as I said, working towards that. Obviously, the product is super important. If the product is not there, you can have the best salespeople. You can have the best salespeople. They can't make magic, right? It's almost impossible. But this product led, it's important in a certain way. It's important for salespeople to understand it, because there is a lot of benefit for them that will help doing their job like so much more easily. So yeah, it's something to understand and to look at right now.
And how can sales work with that product led strategy?
It's understanding this funnel. Because what happened is that generally what happened on that is the shorter sales cycle. You have shorter sales cycle because people start using the product quite quickly, start to get the benefit. And so the question after that is when sales start to intervene to be able to do the rest of the job, right? So obviously, there is the two things. There is at least this part. That's the first part. The second part, sales still have to do it. There is big accounts that will not go through this funnel. They will come from somewhere else because it's almost impossible. You can't have necessarily a company of 5,000 people or 500, that will go necessarily through that. For a certain product like Slack, yes, sure, but Slack is one exception. It's not the rule. So it's understanding what is going to be the role of sales in that, and how product can contribute to sales, and how sales can contribute to product. And how can sales use the data, because everything is around data, how sales can use this data to make their job, so much more powerful, how they can leverage that basically to make more sales and to be more successful.
I realized there was one question I hadn't asked, which is an important one. Oftentimes you hear stories of salespeople get wind of a feature or maybe even a product that's being developed. They get excited. And may get overzealous and mention it to a customer or a buyer too early. How can companies avoid that from happening? And it might be something. I personally think it's as simple as having product and sales talk to each other and having a better cadence and structure around doing that, and for product to be clearer with salespeople about when something's so early, or sometimes maybe just not saying anything yet until it reaches a certain stage. But I may be oversimplifying this. Have you seen a better approach? Have you seen a better? Yeah, have you just seen a better approach for this?
I can tell you what happens is that generally, like, salespeople want to have a roadmap. They want to know, okay, what are we delivering in 3 months? What are we delivering in 6 months? What are we delivering in 9 months? This is like dangerous to have roadmaps like that, especially when you talk about futures, because things change quite quickly. Things can happen also on the platform. There is, like, for example, this new client coming that is super big, and it's putting down part of the platform. So we have technical debt, so we have stuff to work on, and suddenly the roadmap, we're not capable to take it into account. Where it works for us, when I was working, at Masternote, which is Michelin now, is that we were giving a roadmap, but only on 3 months. So basically what we are sure about delivering. So what is coming next? When it was further away, we were talking more about value. I think it's easier when you change the discussion. Because when you look at it, if you talk about futures, people are fighting futures against futures. So for salespeople, it's really hard, right? Because it's like, oh, my competitor is doing B, D, and F, and I'm doing A, B, and D. Okay, and how do you compare the value on that? It's really hard for a user. You finish with this list of features, and you're having a battle, and it's really hard. When the roadmap is more on the value that you're bringing, so more around the pain. First of all, sales can contribute to that. They can be the spearhead to confirm. Long before, if we are trying to find out if there is a need for that, we could be the one saying, oh, this is what we're trying to solve, in the next 6 months. Is it something that customers are interested in? Is it something that you can even sell before we even, try to build it? So talking about value changed completely the discussion from talking about a future. Because if you talk about a future, like what can happen is that, you have an idea as a salesperson, what is the future, but you didn't look really into it. So you're selling an idea that you have, but the idea that the product manager has or someone else is not the same. When it's delivered, this is not what you expect. You promise something, you're completely out of a picture because it was a misunderstanding on both sides. So changing the discussion from futures to value help a lot in roadmap. This is what we did. And also like not over promising like in a year or something like that, because nobody can predict in a year what's going to happen.
But when you sell on value, so I've been in situations and I've seen situations in teams and companies I've advised where, now buyers are asking more, especially new buyers, right? If they're about to work with a new supplier, they're asking for more detail about the roadmap. And which is understandable because actually they want to be able to future-proof their decision as much as possible, right? The stresses and strains of those decisions are a lot higher. And a lot of the times those buyers are looking for more detail than value. So what could product do to support that request? Because value sounds a bit too high level to me, but maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're defining here as value.
I understand when you say that value is value seems a bit higher level, because it's kind of more, I say, instead of saying value, I will say outcomes, for the company. So what is the outcome that they could expect, in the next year? When you talk about the future, for me, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to build, for example, an integration with email. This is like a really clear future. People understand that, they understand an integration with email. Where if you start to say we're gonna offer you more channels of opening, I think on the channel, I'm trying to find out the value for that, but it's where you're gonna say as an outcome that you're gonna integrate with other type of your system. This is where you can explore the discussion, because suddenly it's still a bit, it's not as clear what you're gonna do, and so you're exploring still that, as a company. So you're evolving with them also. And I think being at this level of discussion, and we tried it, for certain products, it was helping customer building with us. What we notice with customers, when you're in product, is that they don't want you, because they are used to that. You sell them one thing today, and then after that, you forget about them. They're just in the backlog, they're just using the product, but you're not answering their needs anymore. And I think it's changing also their discussion about that. When you're talking about futures, I believe that you don't have a product market fit, so which means that you're not answering a pain. And so this is also something that should come back to product. If there is discussion like that, the question is that should we sell to those kind of people? Are we targeting the right people? Are we doing the right thing? All those things are invaluable assets. We are too much into we have to sell to everybody. We have to be like, sell to everyone. We can't do that. Even Slack or even Dropbox or this type of company are not trying to sell to everyone. They are, offering a value, whether you take it or you don't take it. When you look at it, people forget about that, but Slack was built for a team of 10 people. And now you have companies of 5,000 that are using that. Is it really the same value that you're bringing? It's not working that much for companies of 5,000 people. So this is why, talking about future is really hard. We're talking about value, which is collaboration, for example, enhancing the collaboration inside the platform, reducing the number of errors, bulletproofing your company. It's something that for them, it resonates. And they can tell you, what are they seeing in the next year? What is the problem they are seeing? If you talk about this stuff, the salespeople will get some insight that can come back to product again, like going to a virtuous cycle.
Yeah, I mean, this has been very interesting, Philip, because one of the big takeaways here that I'm getting is that actually there's a lot of similarities between product and sales. We just got to look for it. And the two main ones I saw were, one, we're both results-driven people. We may have a different perspective or a different kind of set of personalities, but the end goal is that we're still very results-driven, right? So that's a shared that's a shared value there. And the second thing that I thought was very interesting was that for products people, it isn't features. It isn't just the technical element. The technical elements is almost like a means to an end. The end and what's valuable for product is and as you said, product market fit, is to understand the underlying behaviors, the underlying challenges, the underlying situation that then leads to a feature that needs to be developed. So it's all about the pain. It's all about the situation the buyers are facing. It's all about their story. And actually, that's something that, like I said, salespeople are trained. That should be our very world. We are optimized to understand and question and uncover all those sorts of challenges and pains and desires in order for us to have a solution. Now, we have a commercial framework solution, but you provide the technical foundation and platform for that commercial framework. So I think just those two things, that's valuable, because now we have a shared value. Now we have I don't know how to describe it, almost like, shared perspectives, right? Shared importance, right? So I think right there, now we have a framework for a good discussion between sales and product. And actually we should be working a lot closer together. So I thought this discussion was really insightful. And I know that our viewers and listeners will see the same as well. One question I ask all our guests, which I'd like to ask you is, if there are 3 books that you would recommend people should read, or alternatively, you might say, actually, these are the 3 people that our viewers and listeners should follow and learn from, who or which books would you recommend? And they don't have to be around product. These could be the three individuals or the 3 books that have really changed your world and kind of really helped you advance to where you are.
I think the first book that changed me, and it was on leadership a long time ago, 2008 or something like that. It was Tribal Leadership. Dave Logan, I think his name is, and it's just because he's talking about how to manage your teams and how to give a vision and the importance of culture inside your company. The second book I will give, it's because we live in a world right now where it's the boundaries between people and the borders between the countries, or how we work, or blurred way more and taken out, is the culture map. Is to understand that people are coming from different culture, that they may after that come to the UK, for example, or you work with people that are in Germany or Australia or France, and we all have a different culture. It's not because we all speak English, we all speak the same English, right? And understanding that someone that is structured, that seems structured to you, for example, a German person will seem unstructured. And so this book is really good because it gives you an understanding about the difference in the cultural shift around certain things. They do like this great graph where they show you, the different country compared to, for example, structure or organization or leadership. And just having that in mind, when you're going to work with people, and especially if you're in sales, you can work with people from anywhere in the world. So I think it's a good book for anyone, whether you're in sales, in product, or any organization. And the third book, the third book of a third person, that's a really good question, because obviously, I could say like the big ones that everybody knows, but someone that I was looking at and unfortunately like passed away is Tony Hsieh. He was the founder of Zappos, that was sold for 1 billion, which is a shoe company. He wrote this book that was called Delivering Happiness. It's really interesting, again, from a culture perspective, what he brought inside the company and the growth mindset that he had inside that. So it's kind of free book that I give that are not necessarily in link with product management, more around leadership and growth, because this is what we need. This is what we need, more people that are around growth.
Yeah, those are really good ones. The culture map I know of, but triple leadership and delivering happiness I've heard of, but I haven't read that.
And if you want
those are interesting.
Someone to follow, I will say like his study is quite interesting on the flow and everything, is Steven Kotler. But I will give as someone that's still, because I gave someone that passed away, so I will say someone that is alive, Steven Kotler, around Rise of Superman, of Stealing Fire, understanding how the brain works. That brings also things about flow, gamification, all of that. That is really useful for performance team.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you for that, Philip. And how can I've really enjoyed this conversation, by the way. How can our viewers and listeners find you, connect with you, learn more about you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can connect also with my blog on Medium. And yeah, I'm on social media, so it's where they can find me until I have more stuff around coming. I have a book that is coming, again on leadership, more around leadership, around product. I believe, as you said, there is a lot of communication that can be done between product and sales.
So Philip, this has been really interesting conversation, I have to say, and definitely it's an area that both sales and product need to understand more each other's perspectives. But from a sales perspective, I think there's a lot that we can learn from product, and a lot that we can rely on products who will have the answers to some important questions that we're always asking ourselves. So I thought this was a really, really good conversation, very enlightening. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It was I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. And so this is Moed Amin signing out. If you're interested in the science and research behind your buyers and what makes them buy from someone versus what turns them off, and what approaches to avoid, do please check me out and get in contact. Link in the show notes below, so you can learn more about my programs and how I can help you do that. So until the next episode, thank you very much.